Good morning, Corvallis. You're listening to Second String Sports on 88.7 FM KBVR Corvallis. Second String Sports off a little hiatus last week, but we're back.
Back at it again.
Feeling good. It's a Civil War day. Beautiful weather outside. And yeah.
We got a great show today.
We got a good show today planned. Logan is absent. Sorry about that.
That's not why it's a good show.
Yeah. Oh, man. Grant you just had to throw that in there. So you do got the three of us, Jake, Grant, and Jeff, your three other co-hosts here. We got an awesome show today for you guys. We have special guest Mike Barrett, the official play-by-play broadcaster for the Portland Trail Blazers. We'll be calling in
for clap for that, or
yeah.
I got a little.
Give him something. We can give Mike a little something here.
There we go.
It's only appropriate.
Nice little soundbite there.
Mike Barrett will be calling in around 10:30 to chat Blazers and NBA playoffs. Because as we all know, the Portland Trail Blazers were eliminated a few days ago by the Golden State Warriors, 4-1 in round 2 of the playoffs. So we will get into that before the Mike Barrett interview and during the Mike Barrett interview. But yeah, other than that, just an NBA playoff show.
Yeah.
Little Beaver baseball because we got Civil War tonight.
It's true. We got a 3-game series this weekend.
And yeah. A little short show today. We'll be ending a little bit early, but regardless of that, we do got a good show with the interview coming up. So, yeah.
Needless to say, I think we're all pretty fired up for today's show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before we start, if you do have any specific questions that you want answered by Mike Barrett, you can tweet at Second String Sports or hashtag Second String KBVR, but preferably tweet at us so we see him and we can ask them to him. You can tag him in the tweet as well. And yeah. It's going to be a good show. You want anything asked from him that is appropriate, of course. We're not trying to offend
Obviously.
the man. We're not trying to offend the man.
I think that goes without saying.
And I should have announced this. Well, I'll announce it when he calls in, but Oregon State alum Mike Barrett, I might add. So
we got to throw that in.
We got the Go Beavs connection in the booth today. So yeah, great show. Looking forward to that in about a half hour. Yeah, let's get into the NBA playoffs to just a little warm up to the interview. Do we want to analyze the Blazers series a little bit, Grant, before we get
into it?
I got
some thoughts on the Blazers series, so I'll let you guys do your thing, but I say we jump into that.
Yeah, let's do that. What a series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know entirely, what to say about the series. I think we all saw the amount of effort that the Blazers played with, the amount of heart. Yeah, it was incredible to watch, from such a young team. They were so fearless, which is kind of what, just stood out to me.
Definitely.
Warriors would make a run and, these young guys would come back with, a run of their own. And it was pretty crazy to see because they looked a lot more grown up. And
I think CJ McCollum really grew up in that series, at least in especially in game 5 on Wednesday night. CJ McCollum came to play and I think he had 16 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, just an incredible showing for CJ, and obviously, shout out to the Blazers. Blazers played great, and everyone in the national media is starting to kind of recognize what the Blazers really did this year. After you lost 4 starters, and you got this really young team. I think Kaman is the oldest player, but out of their players, their people in their players in their rotation, I think their oldest player is like 26.
Yeah, it's it was a lot of fun to watch. Really bright future. It was so awesome to see, the way that they played together because they were, like a lot of players said in the interview, they were like brothers, which, that's the whole reason why they were so successful.
One of the coolest things, like you just said about the brotherhood, like all those guys who said this was the most fun they've had playing professional basketball. Yeah. Gerald, Mason,
Crab,
Ed Davis, I believe, Allen.
And, that's big to hear, especially to free agents this summer.
Definitely.
People love playing here. People want to be back. I mean, that's a big selling point. I think Alan Crabb said something. I think he was asked about the rotation and or the system, and he said something like, I don't know why you'd go somewhere else to be frustrated but get paid more money. Which
Definitely.
I think is, I think that's telling.
If you're a Blazer fan, you want to hear that, and I think really you gotta give your hats off to Terry Stotts and Neil O'Shea.
Oh, man,
because a lot of these guys, you look at a guy like Harkless, Alan Crabb, I don't know why I'm blanking on the rest of the team. But Plumlee. It was a lot of kind of cast-offs. There was a lot of guys who'd been in the NBA before.
Yeah, true.
Kind of people really wrote him off. No one really expected him to get to this point, and
even blend as a team.
Yeah, exactly. And
a lot of guys with a chip on their shoulder.
No one was thinking CJ would become most improved player, and I think Portland. You got to be really excited about the Blazers' future. Obviously, they got some questions to answer going forward. They need to find a couple more pieces, but they are on the precipice of becoming an elite team.
Piggybacking off of what you just said about CJ, I know we had discussed on the show maybe about 2-3 months ago about how the CJ trade talks at the deadline were pretty heavy. Like, there's a bunch of different scenarios floating around.
CJ for Kevin Love. We literally
talked about that
on the show.
But looking at it now, I almost see it as, unless it's an insanely good deal, something perfect, I think CJ's untouchable now. Like, he plays such a huge role in the team now. Him and people are officially giving him and Dame, the credit of one of the best backcourts. And Steph and Clay.
Second, I think
they're definitely second.
The guy Shaq, I think, definitively said Portland is the second best backcourt behind the Splash Brothers right now.
Yeah.
And especially because you're seeing how bad Toronto's been, or not. I shouldn't even say bad. They've just been sporadic. They haven't been consistent at all. Yeah, they haven't been consistent at all in the playoffs. So I definitely think Portland is that second best backcourt going forward. But I think you're right. I don't think CJ, I think he's pretty untouchable. Obviously, if Golden State, for whatever reason, goes, hey, we'll trade you Clay for CJ straight up, I think you take it. But I don't think there's anybody. There are very few players in the NBA that CJ is getting traded for, and those players that you would trade for aren't going to get traded anytime soon.
Yeah, well,
maybe Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler to
the Blazers. That'd be
he is unhappy.
I don't know about that.
He's unhappy in Chicago right now.
It's going to be interesting because this season kind of propelled the Blazers into the conversation for some of these guys.
Definitely.
You look at the start of the year and it's a team that 29th out of 30 in the power rankings, and who's going to want to come here, and it's going to take years to rebuild and all of this, and then you make the second round of the playoffs and everything completely changes.
I remember thinking, I think I came on this show actually at the start of the season and said, I think the Blazers and the Lakers are going to contend for the 9 and 10 spots in the West. And I could not have been more wrong on both of them.
No, everyone was wrong.
Both of them. No one saw Portland.
That was all around the league. That wasn't just here. That was
But we're the only show that matters.
True. Exactly. Yeah. No.
True. We are the only relevant sports show in sports broadcasting.
Who else has Mike Barrett on today?
No one.
Yeah.
I mean, unless he's running through the rounds, but hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
It was very interesting after we did get eliminated to see sort of these professional NBA writers and some of these analysts saying this may have finally been the season to attract the free agents, because it's been a wasteland. The last free agent signing that was big was like Jamal Crawford. So there's been no big destination players that have wanted to land in Portland.
Well, now over these next 2 seasons, this is really going to be. These are going to be big summers for the Blazers because the cap's going up. You got all these great free agents coming out now, and Portland's got to make a splash. They got to do something. I mean, I don't think they're a contender for a Kevin Durant or a Westbrook or anyone like that. Not. But I think they can target a guy like DeMar DeRozan or
one of the things that's been bubbling is Al Horford.
Al Horford too would be great.
I don't want Harrison Barnes.
I think Harrison Barnes. I don't know.
He's so inconsistent, though. I mean,
he's really good at shooting corner threes.
It's also about his role within the Warriors system.
True. And I mean, obviously, playing with the Warriors, you get a lot of those open.
How much money
threes.
would he demand too? It's
I don't think that matters. I think no matter what small forward comes out, you're going to have to pay around that same asking price.
That's true.
You might be, with the cap going up, taking a $15 million contract might not be so bad. That might be league standard coming up in the next couple of years. I got a guy, I was talking with my buddy Ian Campbell last night. He suggested either Horford or Kent Bazemore.
I think
Bazemore would be perfect for the Blazers, playing a little 6-man role, coming off the bench.
He does fit that role. A young guy, athletic, who's kind of. I mean, he hasn't been written off, but he's been
undrafted guy though.
Yeah, exactly.
Undrafted,
at times in his career, he's kind of made a little place for himself in the league. So
he was on the Lakers. So he was on the Lakers. I mean, right before the Warriors took off, they traded him to the Lakers for Steve Blake. Yeah. And I can tell you, watching that guy, I mean, he's an athletic freak. And Steph and Clay love this guy because He only averaged something like 4 minutes when he played on the Warriors, but Steph and Clay both said he's one of the best one-on-one players they've ever played against, and they just play one-on-one all day after practice when he was on the Warriors, and he was the guy who got Steph to Under Armour.
Yeah, and one thing, just going back to before the season, we kind of looked at this summer and said, Al-Farouq Aminu, he signed. That's
Jake.
Kind of a huge.
I texted Jake about it,
huge contract for Al-Farouq Aminu.
I said that exact same thing. I texted to Jake like, "Wow, LOL's giving $12 million a year to Al-Farouq Aminu,"
and I just
pays off.
I just remember, I remember tweeting something along that line too, like, "Wow, this is all we're gonna do," and you look at it now. He has a contract that's kind of declining, I think.
Oh, it's a great contract now.
It's
because he got it right before the
for
huge
$22 million
cap space.
total.
I think he signed for 4 years, 48 million. So it'll be 3 years.
I read something that we
years?
have him for like 3 years, 22 in the next 3. Like that's crazy.
And Ed Davis is on 4 years as well.
I mean, that's credit to Neil O'Shea. That's great value.
Ed Davis, another great pickup by the Blazers. Mm-hmm. I think Portland's done a really good job at finding, I don't know,
diamond in the rough talents that kind of overlooked, forgotten, unutilized.
I'd say value free agents where
That's a good word,
they're not breaking the bank for a free agent, but you get a guy like Ed Davis who comes in and is going to do all those dirty things. Ed Davis is going to block shots. He's going to rebound. He's going to take fouls. He's going to add some toughness to your defense. And paying guys like that, $8 million. I think Ed Davis is making around 8.
Yeah, around 8. And I was just saying this off air to you that Ed Davis in his exit interview said that he's looking to gain around 15 pounds in the offseason, which I think is huge because you looked at him in that clip. Ed's a huge guy. He's a force, but you looked at him compared to some of those guys like DeAndre, he was dwarfed in the paint. Yeah. So
it's going to be interesting. I think Neil O'Shea and all those guys have earned our complete trust in terms of the direction.
Absolutely.
And, I wasn't so sure about some of the summer signings, to be completely honest, but it's worked out. So can't do nothing, anything else but trust him at this point. It'll be interesting to see. Mm-hmm. A lot of flexibility.
Yeah. So
absolutely,
we'll save the rest of the Blazer talk for when Mike calls in. But right now, let's cover sort of what's happened in the playoffs since. I mean, it's been 2 weeks since our last show.
I guess, but I mean, I think the only story we need to talk about is Spurs.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to.
Come on, let's be real here. We don't need. I mean, Heat Toronto is like, you kind of look at it and it's like, oh wow, they've played 3 overtime games, but they have not been nearly as compelling as Spurs Thunder has with this past series.
What do you guys think? Who saw this coming?
No one. Well, no one here. We all picked the Spurs. I picked the Spurs in 5.
I have the Spurs in the finals.
Yeah. Well, Jake, you're out of the bracket.
I already
now.
had Toronto and San Antonio, so I'm definitely out. Considering I think Toronto's going to lose, but
yeah, you had Boston in the conference finals too.
Yeah.
So.
Okay,
anyway, no. I mean, I think what we saw is the end, or at least the descent of the original Big Three with the Spurs and Manu, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan. I think they're on the downslope of their careers, and obviously they've been on the downslope for a couple of years. But it was just really weird seeing San Antonio not do the little things right. San Antonio is always that team where in the fourth quarter, San Antonio does the little things right. And I remember watching Game 3 when San Antonio won, and OKC turned it over in the fourth quarter. They're taking bad shots, and San Antonio just didn't do that. And it was just so bizarre to see kind of the reversal of that with the Thunder, because the Thunder played. I don't want to say they played great in the fourth quarter, because Russell Westbrook he terrifies me in the last 4 minutes with the ball in his hand. But they responded to the Spurs punches.
Yeah. I didn't see the whole 20-something point lead at halftime.
Did not expect that.
It was closer to 30.
It was like 28, I think, at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff and I were talking about the game yesterday, and I mean before the game, and it was like, I think the Thunder probably close it out, but it's going to be a good game. It was, I wasn't expecting that.
I turned it on and I remember I looked down at my phone and I look up and it's like, wow, Thunder are up 10. Like, okay, that's kind of weird. And you're thinking the Spurs are going to make this run. And then all of a sudden it's like Andre Roberson having the best series of his life, Dion Waiters having the best series of his life, Steven Adams has now emerged as the new number 3 for the Thunder. Cantor's come out of nowhere. I mean, it's like all these guys on the Thunder are now playing out of their minds right now.
Yeah.
And Adams can't be stopped on the offensive glass. And
I
neither
love
can Cantor.
Steven Adams.
I do too. And I was thinking about this last night, just watching it. Cantor and Adams are the equivalent of Draymond Green for that team, because Adams gives you that toughness on defense where he's not going to take any crap from anybody, and he's going to stick up for his teammates, and he's going to talk a bunch of junk, and he's going to get rebounds and do all the dirty stuff. And then Cantor gives you kind of like the offensive skills that Draymond has with the corner threes and rebounding, and they're just two great big guys. They're so much fun to watch.
Yeah. No, completely agree. I looking forward, this Warriors Thunder series is going to be crazy.
Gonna be great.
It's going to be
I can't
awesome.
wait. I can't wait.
And we thought the same thing about the Spurs Warriors series was going to be a good series. I mean, this is no different. You see how athletic, and you know what, Russell Westbrook has really impressed me this playoffs, kind of just growing up and becoming more mature and realizing
He's still so bad in under 4 minutes.
I
though.
agree.
It's
He's talking about
weird.
personality-wise.
well, that also, but
Well, not even really that, but
I mean, like, I don't know. I trust him a little bit more now than I did.
I know what you mean.
Like, I don't know. It's just,
it went from like a 4 to a 5 out of 10.
yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go up much.
But, that may just be what they needed to take kind of a little step forward, is what I'm saying. I mean,
Oh yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They're a very, very good team that beat one of the Spurs had one of the best records in NBA history, which was overshadowed.
67
Insanity.
games.
Yeah,
You're
which
never
is-
going to see a team win 67 games and finish
If
second in a
Golden State
conference.
hadn't
exactly.
existed, we would have been talking about the Spurs all year.
So that was a much bigger task than I think some even realized.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is
I don't
kind of
know.
hard to call it an upset though when you got Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
True.
Yeah.
But in a way, you're right. No, it is. I mean, it is a bit of an upset, because I think the whole narrative all season long has been we're building up for this Spurs Warriors conference finals matchup. Winner of that wins the title.
LaMarcus,
and now we don't get
David
it.
West, come sign, and we'll take on the Warriors.
Okay,
blah,
so
blah, blah.
how excited are you guys as Blazer fans to know that LaMarcus leaves and you guys
24 hours later.
24 hours later, you guys finish in the exact same spot. I mean, I saw it on Twitter.
No one saw it coming.
I gotta imagine
insanity.
that's gotta be such it's gotta be like the icing on the cake after like losing game 5, like playing your heart out, getting all this love, and then watching LaMarcus get blown out by 20 points the next night.
Not complaining.
Yeah.
Not complaining. Going off of the Spurs, though, let's talk about the Spurs for a sec. Last year, first round exit. This year, second round exit. Where's his team?
It's
I don't
Tim
know.
Duncan's staying, I think.
I think Duncan's got one more year.
One more.
I think Ginobili is done. Parker's getting up there too. I don't know.
I think Parker's got at least 3, 4, maybe.
I don't know. It's like I watch Parker sometimes, and I don't know how I see him playing 3 more years.
He still got it, but
He had I think games 2 and 3, which I think the Spurs won, or 3 and 4 when the Spurs won, whichever one. I think it was game 3 actually in OKC, where he had I think like 21 points. He played great in the games that they won. Parker plays great, but I mean, other than after that, he was kind of non-existent. And Kawhi had some kind of shaky performances, and I don't know.
second in All-Star vote or second in MVP.
LaMarcus started off so high. I think he had like 41 in game 1 and
2,
38 in game 2.
Yeah, game 2 and
game
game
1. And then
1.
after that, it was just 19, 18, 21. And it was just, he was a non-factor.
Nope.
And I think OKC kind of got some confidence, and they figured out, all right, well, we're going to throw Adams. Rather than having Ibaka play him, we're going to throw Adams and Cantor at him. And Adams just pesters people, and he just gets under people's skin. The crazy thing about Adams, too, he's only 22.
That's
insane.
something everyone.
He's only 22.
He's our age, and like, look at him. He looks like a
I'm older than
lumberjack
him.
man.
I'm older than
That's freaky.
than Adams.
That is freaky.
That is
That's
just so weird.
That's unnatural.
Yeah. So okay, well, moving forward then, this was a narrative also throughout this series. Chris Webber said it might be the last game we ever see Kevin Durant in an Oklahoma City Thunder jersey, which I think is absurd to bring it up in the middle of a series
absurd
anyway.
to bring it up now, and it completely contingent on how far they go
But
as well.
after game one, we're talking about, Kevin Durant wants to go to the Spurs.
True.
No, I don't think he's leaving now, and I didn't think he was going to leave in the first place. But I think now, why leave? You got
They
they
saw what they could do. They
Yeah.
just dethroned the Spurs. I mean, that's this Golden State OKC series has so many implications.
Oh, I know. It's going to be great, and God, NBA is it's fun right now. It's just a fun time to be watching the NBA.
What a time to be alive. NBA,
What a
nothing
time.
better. Like we say on the show every show.
True.
Nothing better.
It's the meat and
It's the meat of the show, and
There you
everything
go.
else is just like the veggies and the lettuce and the bread.
Throw it in the crock pot.
Maybe a little mayo. Throw it in the crock pot. That's a reference. If you're a full time,
if you're a
dedicated second string sports
diehard
fan,
second string fan,
you'd
you'll
understand.
know that.
Yeah, probably not.
Do we want to talk about Heat Raptors at all?
Yeah, we got about 7 minutes here. Just
I mean,
if
we
you
can
are-
talk Heat Raptors, or we can go on.
Yeah,
we can talk
we
NBA
can.
draft. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can go here other than Heat Raptors.
yeah, just wanted to start.
we don't really want to
I
talk
don't
Heat
think
Raptors.
anyone here is really.
Before we do move on to another topic, if you are just now tuning in about 5-6 minutes now, we do have Blazers play-by-play announcer Mike Barrett calling into the studio. So if you have anything that you want us to ask him or anything that you want him to say during the quick little interview, you can tweet at Second String KBVR on Twitter.
Already got
Second
some
String Sports.
good questions rolling in.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I think we got some good questions prepared for Mike.
Yeah,
I think
it's gonna
it'll be
be-
a good interview.
Going to be a good show for the OSU alum. So stay tuned for that if you are just now tuning in. About 5 minutes. Stick with us, and Mike Barrett will be calling in. But in the meantime,
Heat Raptors.
Heat
Let's keep
Raptors.
rolling with the playoffs. Heat Raptors.
not
I
really
mean,
much to
Let's
say.
go from Thunder Spurs.
Besides for that
to
It's
overtime.
game
Raptors.
six tonight. Raptors can close out in Miami.
I don't want them to. I want a Heat.
I want Heat Cavs.
Yeah.
I want Heat Cavs
really
so
want Heat
bad.
Cavs, and I want Whiteside to get healthy.
Just
so
a
it
minute.
can be
Heat Cavs, Golden State Thunder. It's just that's like almost like a dream playoff. I don't know. I really
No,
hope it's
I
Heat Cavs.
kind of agree. Yeah.
You
Cavs
the other
is
day you
so
wanted the Raptors
juicy.
though.
I know, as far as I want them just because they've had so much less
Turmoil.
postseason
We the North,
success.
man.
I mean, they seem to choke it away every year in the playoffs somehow.
Yeah.
And I want it for that reason. I like that. I respect the Toronto fan base. I think that they deserve a break, kind of like we did with injury
I
type
agree.
stuff.
They have a great
they
fan
do.
base.
And I agree from a basketball standpoint. I would love to see Heat Cavs, but from a fan rooting standpoint, I'd prefer Toronto. So either way, I kind of win. I'm kind of leaning towards
It would be pretty hilarious to see
Heat
Toronto
Cavs.
contest LeBron and
I
but
just
they
think the
I
wouldn't.
Heat-
just don't. I think the Heat give a better series to the Cavs.
That's what I'm saying.
I do,
You know,
yeah.
and I just don't. I don't see. There's nothing Toronto show me that I go. All right. Well, if they win against Miami, they're gonna take it to the Cavs.
Can we
it's gonna
talk-
be a 4-game sweep if they
Yeah.
play the Cavs.
Can we talk about how
yeah.
impressive Miami's been in this playoffs without Chris Bosh too?
Dwayne Wade is
Dwayne
it's
Wade
a
is
resurrection.
vintage. It's
yeah,
resurrection.
It's vintage Dwayne
He's
Wade
got-
right now.
He's got LeBron on his mind. He wants that Cavs matchup. I think.
It's gonna be interesting. I think. I don't know. Do you think Toronto closes it out tonight?
I don't think they do.
Don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think they do either. I think it goes 7, and then they win. They win Game 7 back in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's just the way the series has gone, and it'll probably go to overtime. And Kyle Lowry will probably
Heater
shoot
an
like 8
experienced
of
team.
18.
Heater experience, so
Yeah,
it should be interesting.
definitely. I got a little question, I guess. Now, getting kind of doubling back to the Blazers here. What did you guys think of Damian's performance in Game 5? At least in the fourth quarter, because he had and I mean, I guess I should say that whole series because he had a couple of really awful shooting nights.
Yeah. His little Twitter battle with Skip Bayless.
I don't care what Skip Bayless has to say.
True. No one does, but
He's leaving anyway, so
Yeah.
I mean, what can you really say?
I can give some hot takes beyond first take. Just saying.
You could replace Skip. He's leaving.
Oh yeah, I could take the other side of arguments, just like Skip, and embrace debate.
What do you think, Grant?
It was. I don't know. It's so hard to know. He took some very contested shots.
And he spread the ball around very well.
Everyone
too,
can
so.
see that, but he also did a lot of good things. He had an off shooting night.
Well, I
He
think
took a lot of tough shots.
Yeah.
That's not a great combination.
No, it's not.
Kind of like a Russell Westbrook moment, but
well, I think Portland just as a team, they just don't take great shots. They take a lot of contested threes.
They do.
I think, between CJ and Damian. I think that
CJ especially.
The biggest thing in that series, at least in Game 5 that I noticed, is Warriors threw Klay Thompson on him. And I think the bigger body kind of bothered Damian a little bit because he couldn't get any separation on Klay Thompson. He'd drive to the right, and Klay Thompson's on him the whole time. And he tries to step back. Klay Thompson's there.
And credit Klay Thompson.
Yeah, Klay Thompson was great. And I don't know how many points Damian had in the fourth. He drew that foul late to get 3 free throws. But I thought he should have passed it up, given it to CJ. And obviously that's absolutely splitting hairs right now. So, you should have done this, like splitting hairs. But I shouldn't criticize Damian. Shoot till you're hot. You're the star. You got to put the team on your back.
That's kind of where I'm at. He has to take some.
You
of
don't
these
want to take
to
that
have a
away from
chance.
I can't be criticized. I'm a Kobe fan.
Sure. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense.
All I can say is that was the least mad I've ever been over like a Trailblazers elimination.
Oh,
just
yeah.
because it felt so good. Like,
and I don't know if you guys saw the whole stat on who was leading in the series, but the Blazers held, I think, like a 130 something to 90 something minute lead.
yeah. If the Blazers play 3 good quarters out of the 18 that we played, this could very well be pushed to a 7-game series.
Oh,
right
easily.
now.
And I mean, all the Warriors players were saying afterwards. I mean, how
much
great
they respected it,
how much respect they have for the Blazers, and how great of a test it was, and to prepare them for
Helped
the next
the
round.
Warriors, jeez.
It really helped the Warriors, and the Warriors are all saying that. They're like guys, watch out for Portland. Like, they really helped us. So
it's cool. It was very cool.
yeah, it was a cool moment for sure.
Warriors led for just 47 minutes over the final 4 games of the series.
That's insane.
That is a round 1 game. Like that's it's a pretty telling stat for how much closer this series was than the 4-1 indicated.
Because I mean, look at last year. We got eliminated 4-1 by Memphis, and that was a pure just smackdown elimination.
I never
every
felt
game.
like we had a chance in those games.
I think LaMarcus checked out in that
exactly.
series.
That's the thing.
Checked out after the 0-2 in Memphis. He did.
Yeah. So, it was hard fought, and like you said, not at all mad. There's a bright future.
All right, we're going to take a quick PSA break, but when we come back, we got special guest Mike Barrett calling in the booth.
Hopefully,
this is second string sport. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Free money is available for you to do good, healthy things. The Healthy Campus Initiative invites you to join their team by doing something to support wellness at OSU. They need your ideas and energy on the team and can provide up to $1,000 to help support your project. You can pick up a form at Dixon Rec Center or download one from the OSU Be Well blog site and share your idea. The Healthy Campus Initiative is largely funded by a grant from the Pacific Source. The initiative supports physical activity, healthy eating, stress management, and tobacco education and cessation. For more information, contact Tina Clausen at tina.clason@oregonstate.edu.
I'm Sherry Shepard. You probably know me best as a co-host on The View. More importantly, I'm a mom. If you're pregnant or a new mom, you can get timely expert information.
And second string sports, we are back in the booth. We have a special guest calling in. You there, Mike?
Oh, this could be potentially awkward.
Hello? No, there he is. There he is.
I hear the laugh.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, guys. How you doing?
All right, so we got OSU alum Mike Barrett and play-by-play announcer for the Portland Trailblazers calling in right now. All right, we do got a few questions to start off. I know Jeff had a few to start it off.
Hey, Mike, this is Jeff Lowe. I'm sure you listen to the show all the time.
Of course.
Okay, so obviously the Blazers surpassed a lot of the expectations this season. What moves do you think Portland has to make to really take that next step going forward?
You know, I was on a show in San Francisco yesterday, and they were kind of asking the same thing, talking about off-season moves, and it's hard to sit at this early point and really think about those. I think the thing that I think you have to be careful about a little bit here is maybe avoiding making change for change's sake. I mean, this is a team that grew a lot, and there's certainly room for improvement, and given the next month or two, I think given what Neil O'Shea did last summer, he'll make the right decisions. But I think if you know, one of the moves we thought at midseason was perhaps getting a power forward who perhaps is a little more of a scorer. They love Noah Vonleh. He's only 20 years old. So they've got some guys that can do that, but I think they're going to be a destination now for free agents, whereas maybe that would have been a tough sell at one point, but they've shown that, being a small market team does not limit you in terms of marketability. I mean, Dame has built an empire basically and built his own brand just through social media. So I think it'll be an interesting summer. I don't think filled with a ton of change, but that's a good thing. I think when you build a chemistry like they have built, and it can be a fragile thing, and you don't want to mess too much with it, and you've got to run your guys through a big-time filter, the guys who you potentially will bring in, and I know that Dame and CJ and guys like that will be involved in the process before they bring anybody in, a screening process to make sure you bring guys who fit with the family atmosphere that they work so hard to build.
So what are you going off of that? What do you think about bringing in a guy like Kent Bazemore?
I don't know. I've got to be cautious with that stuff because social media is what it is. And if I say I like a guy, then all of a sudden I look on Twitter in the next half an hour and it's a rumor that Portland is bringing in XYZ. And plus with the NBA season technically still going, I don't think anybody's going to bite on that now, and any potential guys. It's fun for you guys to talk about, and I get it, and keep doing it. But in terms of actual names at this point, I think I'll stay away.
I fully respect that there.
All right, Mike. This is Jake McGrady here. I got another question coming in, sort of piggybacking off of what we were talking about the team chemistry. Sort of as a guy who's been around the team in the offseason and to start out the year, was this something that you noticed from the start, something different with the team chemistry and how, it's honestly a cohesive unit that really no one expected? Was this something that you sort of noticed from the jump, or is it just a complete surprise overall?
Well, we noticed it. I mean, in terms of when you have Damian Lillard, who is your undisputed leader, and, last summer was interesting because, when LaMarcus made his decision, Neil had set the roster up in a way to where it could be basically dominoes could fall either direction. If he comes back, then you likely would have seen many of the same guys return in terms of Wesley and Robin and maybe even Nick in that situation. But since when he went, the roster was built in a way to where you could almost change on the fly and not have to go through, because in the NBA, you have to go through a deconstruct and you have to shed bad contracts, and all of a sudden then you start putting Band-Aids like Dallas has done, like Brooklyn has done.
Completely.
You end up getting deep in the salary cap, 80s and 90 millions, and you've got an older roster, kind of patchwork trying to fix things. And I almost think in the day that it happened, it was a little bit surprising that LaMarcus made his decision he made, but at the same time, I think a lot of us then, and we talked about this maybe off the air, because if we would have talked about it on the air, we would have been seen as, maybe, I don't know, kicking dirt on the grave or something. Yeah. But I think that was the one thing, LaMarcus he's a great guy, but the chemistry never really was there. And I think it was some of the same issues that has been talked about a lot when Brandon Roy was here, and there were some hurt feelings and some toes being stepped on a little bit. And I think when the path was cleared for Dame to be the undisputed leader, I think we knew there'd be good chemistry. And then in the fall, when Dame had so many guys back in early, and Mason Plumlee arrived and said, "I've never seen guys back in this early. We normally show up a day or two before training camp." When he was in Brooklyn, he said, "This is something brand new." And then Dame had organized the trip that's been talked about so much to San Diego for the guys to hang out and train together and build chemistry. So when you have an undisputed leader who values chemistry the way Dame does and has no ego and is approachable, and guys can talk to him the way he talks to them, and they hold each other accountable, that I think gave us a good idea of it. But that didn't mean it was going to translate into wins immediately. But
exactly.
And it didn't. I mean, they were 9 below 500 in early January, so once Gerald was healthy, once Harkless really kind of found his niche on the team, that's when they took off. But yes, it's been chemistry that's been their greatest fuel of the season. And again, they'll protect that in the off season. But I think with Dame in charge, I don't think there's any worries about that.
Yeah, it's sort of going off that chemistry. Obviously, we can talk about CJ's breakout year, but for some of these new additions, was there a specific player that completely took you by surprise or surprised you the most with the development and production this year?
Probably Maurice Harkless, even though we liked Mo his rookie year in Orlando and even in his second year, and then he just fell out of the rotation there. I mean, they didn't hardly use him his third year.
Got lost
so
in the
they
system.
pick him up and get him for basically a future second-round pick, which in NBA terms is nothing. So, yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. I thought maybe he'd come in and play well. I didn't think he'd start. And a guy who we didn't hear a lot about in the playoffs, and the guy I mentioned a moment ago, Noah Vonleh,
Yeah.
you know, he started a lot of the season at power forward and showed some great strides. I expected that would be the case, but perhaps he came along a little quicker than I thought. And again, he hasn't been talked about lately because he didn't play a lot in the playoffs. But I still think his ceiling is really high, and I think he's got a good future on this team. Gerald Henderson, we knew coming in as a proven starter in the league and a leader in Charlotte. I'm not sure that was much of a surprise. I think Gerald is a guy who can get his own shot, good mid-range shooter, energy guy. We knew that. Mason Plumlee, I always liked in Brooklyn, but I just didn't know a lot about. We only see him twice a year. But he was tremendous as well. So I couldn't boil that down to one, but in terms of those type of guys who I think surprised, and I don't want to leave off the list CJ, because
True.
CJ really, you know, he's playing behind Matthews last year. We didn't see a lot of CJ, and then the playoffs roll around when Matthews was hurt and Aflalo was hurt, and CJ goes for 35 and 33 against Tony
35.
Allen, one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. So we went, okay, maybe CJ is that guy, but I still think he had to prove it. So I'd almost put him, and I know most improved player and everything else, but in terms of my personal expectations, probably the guy that shattered the ceiling would be CJ the most.
Yeah, agreed. You know, this is a Twitter question. This is Grant, by the way, Mike.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have a question. What was your favorite Blazers season, and where does this rank
That's
among
a good
those? You know, we talked about so much, you know, how much fun the season was. Guys loved and said this was their most fun season. So where does this rank for you?
Man, it ranks. Probably because it's so fresh in my mind. It's got to be right up there, if not number one. Then, well, it is. It has to be my favorite so far, just in terms of dealing with these guys. There have been some fun seasons, though. I mean, the season I think in 2007, when they went to the playoffs, won 54 games. It was also a season that they surprised a lot of people. Those were always fun. And played Houston in the first round. The series with Yao. And a series the Trailblazers lost. That was a really fun season. Brandon Roy was a great guy to work around, and that was a good young group, likable group like this one. Then I go way back. I don't know. When I started with the Blazers in '99, that season, those players, it was a fun season, but it was kind of tough to rally behind the guys. I didn't know the guys as well, the individuals as well. And that was during kind of a rough stretch for the Trailblazers in terms of guys they brought in and really didn't go through the screening process, it didn't seem, in terms of how they'd fit in the community. Now that is if it's not the highest priority, it's among the top three. And it's not even a worry anymore. I mean, it used to be way back then where you would have concerns, and a lot of markets have this, on how the guys are going to behave themselves off the floor. That's not even a consideration anymore, and that's great. I mean, that shows that the priority has stuck and you've got the system in place. But, my first series I covered was back in the 90s. Now I'm obviously going to basically tell you how old I am. In 92, I covered the final series in Chicago when that Blazers team with, Clyde and Buck and Terry and Jerome and Duck and that whole crew, that was a fun team to be around. But still, in terms of guys on a day-to-day basis that I have had the privilege of traveling with and everything else, this is the top group and has been the most fun season. And now expectations go up. Now the innocence has gone a little bit, so it'll be different going forward. I don't think they'll be any less enjoyable to be around, but in terms of an enjoyable season, this has to rank number one.
So, Mike, you kind of touched on it a little bit, dating back to the '92 series with Portland versus the Bulls. You've been calling the play-by-play game since 2003. Who's the best team you've seen over that career? I mean, is it this Warriors team that just won 73 games?
Probably regular season team, and we'll have to see going forward. And I actually watched, I don't know why, we're talking about this, I watched Game 6 the other day of the 92 finals, went kind of through and just watched it again. That was probably, for me anyway, it was my first time traveling, covering a team, and I was working in Portland radio then. I wasn't with the Blazers in 92, but I was still on the series. That was in the old Chicago Stadium, and I was kind of, it was insane. I was 23, 24 years old, and it was kind of a surreal experience because it was an old school arena. Chicago Stadium was stinky, and it was brick, and the tunnels that didn't meet fire code, and it was just one of those old Boston Garden type places that'll always stand out in my mind, and that team probably will with Chicago. But Golden State regular season wise, this has got to be among the top. There's been some good San Antonio teams, but in terms of teams that I have seen and watched, I still put Golden State up there, I guess, but then again, I was witness to a Portland 32-point beatdown of this team, and so that was, it's hard for me to look at them in the same way. And then you go into Game 5 the other night, and you think, all right, Portland is going to be out of gas. They've exceeded every expectation. They're going to roll over, and they didn't. So this Oklahoma City team is pretty good this year, too. When they're healthy, that's going to be a great series coming up in terms of top teams in the league and top teams in recent memory. I wasn't surprised at all to see OKC beat San Antonio, and I think this is going to be a huge series.
All right, Mike. So we got another Twitter question that came in sort of about the coaching situation. How have you, working with Terry Stotts and being with the team with Terry Stotts, this team in specifics, what have you seen, like, just from his leadership standpoint that has really made a huge impact on this team?
Well, I think, number one, he's really approachable. He's a great human being. He encourages the guys to have lives outside of basketball, which a lot of coaches don't do. I mean, a lot of coaches don't know current events. They literally are workaholics who are in the office, and not to say Terry's not, but they just kind of get one-dimensional. And I think that there's more to life than that, and I think there's to build well-rounded young men, I think, is vital, and that may sound funny, but I believe that. And Terry does that with these guys. He never, in post-game press conferences, sells his players out. Some coaches do. They think it'll inspire their guys, but I think the guys see that about Terry, and they want to go to battle for him then. And when you talk about last fall, when we were talking about chemistry and signs of it early on, when Dame came out early before the season started and said, Terry's my guy, as long as I'm here, I want him here, that was an intentional comment by the leader of the team directed at his teammates, as to say, this is the guy, fall in line. And they did. So Terry is, when the season, maybe last year when we saw Terry start to work his out of bounds plays and his clock management, game management situations, not a lot of coaches have that. He has that, and the only other coach that I'd put in that class that I've been around closely has been Rick Adelman in terms of offensive flow, diagramming plays, sensing the right things, coaching by feel. Terry's got all that, and his staff, and I hope that we don't lose assistants off his staff. That's the one negative about all of a sudden getting attention is everybody gets attention. Not only do the players then make a little more money, but then you become ripe for having assistants plucked for other jobs. And I know there are going to be some rumors about that out there. So I hope top to bottom the staff stays together. Jay Triano gets a lot of credit. Jay is the head coach of the Canadian national team and is a former coach of the Raptors. And hopefully he stays. I know he loves it here. All the guys seem to. Nate Tibbetts is a guy who's got head coaching aspirations, and I think will be on a short list for some jobs, maybe even this summer. I think David Vanterpool has become really close to Dame. Yeah. He's a guy who interviewed for the Sixers job last summer. So the whole staff, top to bottom, and that's what Terry would like, is for everybody to get credit because he defers credit. And again, that's another reason why his guys love him so much.
Yeah, sort of piggybacking off what you just said about credit. I thought it was sort of interesting to get your take on it. LeBron's comments recently about the Blazers saying that he believes Stott should have been coach of the year and Damian should have been an all-star, and that C.J. McCollum is obviously a budding stud in the league. Would you say that this is sort of the season that sort of switches the perception from writers from around the league, sort of on a free agent destination standpoint or just respect standpoint in general? This is some of the most attention I've ever seen the Blazers receive ever. Postseason especially.
No, absolutely. And again, that brings with it challenges. That brings with it pressure. Yeah, when you don't have any expectations, you don't have any pressure. And there's that chip on your shoulder where we're playing, we have nothing to lose. Well, now they're going to have something to lose. So how are you going to react to that? And I'm sure they'll react well to it. But, league-wide and as much as we like to think that our games are viewed by a national audience on League Pass every night, and I know we have Blazer fans in all cities, and it's great to hear from them, but the fact of the matter is you don't really land on the national landscape until you do something like this in the postseason. And I know the Game 5 on Turner the other night was the highest-rated cable game of the year. And our Game 4 on ABC, or Game 3 on ABC, was also way up there ratings-wise. And so then you start to penetrate maybe places where you didn't and hadn't previously in the NBA or on the sports landscape. So it's been great to hear the respect. And it was interesting that LeBron commented on it. I know Chris Haynes, who is from, up here, went to school up here, and I know Chris well, and he writes in Cleveland now. His love is the Trailblazers, and so he asked LeBron that question. But it was really, I'm glad he did it, and I texted him after and said, hey, man, I'm glad you asked that question about the Blazers. And he kind of laughed. But he's close to this group. He knows Dame well. And I think he knew what weight that would carry if he got LeBron to at least comment on him. And good for LeBron for doing it. I think a lot of guys would have answered that with, I don't care about them. I'm worried about our own series.
Exactly.
He didn't do that. And a lot of people look at that and go, okay, well, if LeBron's saying this and talking about how great they are, then that just raises your profile and maybe raises your status as a free agent destination. And, again, I don't know how many spots are going to be available, but it's going to be a fun process.
Yeah. Mike, we got another Twitter question from at Blazer Beavs, so that's kind of an awesome Twitter handle.
Very fitting for right now.
Exactly. Just wanted to know, can you ask Mike Barrett, Moda aside, what's the best home court advantages in the league, in terms of crowd, location, travel, for you?
As far as home court advantage type difficult places to play, and some cities get behind their team when they're good. I mean, that just happens.
Yeah.
But some big cities, like Miami, for instance, it's kind of a tourist town, and it's kind of a transient crowd, and you don't see the same faces, you don't see the same passion. I think in terms of what a team truly, and a team's success, what it truly means to a city, Golden State has a good crowd, and they always have. Mm-hmm. And when they stunk, and they stunk for a lot of years, that was always a fun place to play. And so I feel, and it doesn't matter what I think necessarily, but I always feel good for a city when they've been there through the bad times, and now they're getting rewarded for their patience. There are bad cities. I mean, Atlanta, they don't drop flies and never have. And I don't know why. They've got a great arena. They've always had good teams. We've played some games in there where there have been 3,000 or 4,000 fans, and it's crazy, and they've had good teams. New York's a fun place to go because Madison Square Garden has all the history, and they've redone the arena, so it's a little bit different now, but it's still an old-school arena with a low ceiling, which I don't know if you can tell on TV. It's a lot like, if you look at Madison Square Garden, Oracle, and the Old Forum in Los Angeles, they're all kind of built with the same exact architecture, and it's kind of cool and is old school. But, Oklahoma City likes to think they have a great crowd. I think they do when they're playing well in playoff time. They call it Loud City. It doesn't compare to Moda, and I'm not being a homer for saying that. I honestly mean that.
I love it.
No, you can tell on TV, too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and Draymond Green's comments I thought were great. He plays in front of a raucous crowd, and he said, we didn't want to go back to Portland for Game 6. That crowd was nuts. And so I think, and if we get asked that question and we answer Portland, eyes roll because we work for the team, and I get that. But Portland, Golden State, Boston is usually a pretty good crowd and
Oklahoma
a pretty fun
City.
place to play, pretty loud, pretty engaged crowd. I think Oracle is neat because it's such an intimate environment. They've had to take a small arena and pack seats into it. Therefore, the fans are on top of the court. When Utah's going well, that's a fun place to play. That's a crowd that's usually loud. They've dropped off over the last few years when they haven't been as good. But when they've been going good, back when the Blazers had them in the Western semifinals in 2000, and then I go back even further than that. But that's playoff time. Utah's a great environment, too. So those are all good home court advantages.
Well, Mike, so kind of, again, going off of the away crowd, I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, so I'm a big Laker fan. I know we're down right now. To say that we're down right now is a bit of an understatement. We're kind of a dumpster fire. But I got to ask, what is your favorite Kobe moment over your broadcasting career?
Well, if you go on YouTube, you'll actually hear my call of a game in, I think, 03 or 04, when Portland was going through that stretch where the Lakers could not win in Portland.
And
they still don't win here very often. But Kobe had Ruben Patterson on him, and the Blazers had that game won several times. And Kobe hit a bomb to tie it, and then hit an up and under three for the win. And it was a game the Lakers needed.
Yep.
And I was down. We called the game down in L.A. when he had the 63 points, and that was phenomenal as well. But that home game, when he did what he did in the second half in terms of getting that game won when it looked lost about 5 times, that probably is my favorite one. And, I wasn't always the biggest Kobe fan, but as a guy gets older, you start to respect him more. I respect what he did. And the farewell tour, I mean, that's fine. Some people rather see a guy go out like maybe Duncan did last night, but I got all the respect in the world for Kobe, even if I don't for Laker fans. Sorry.
Right. I'm really glad you brought up that Kobe versus the Kobe stopper Ruben Patterson. I love bringing that up against to all my Blazer friends here.
Well, it was a good moment for Kobe, but if you do remember, Ruben did play pretty well against him, and the Blazers had a huge advantage. Even when Portland stunk, I mean, I remember a late season game here in a game the Lakers had to have, and Portland started Ha-Sung Jin at center and Sebastian Telfair at point guard, and they still beat them. And that was one of those moments where I remember the Laker writers saying, if they can't beat this squad in Portland, they're never going to win a game up here. So those were fun times against a Portland team that wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, there were times where the Lakers were just, I don't know what it was. There's something about playing in Portland where it was, playing in the Rose Garden was just a house of horrors for the Lakers, and it was just so difficult for them to win.
Well, it's been that way for a lot of teams. I mean,
definitely.
The only team in the NBA that has a winning record all time in Portland is Boston, and that's only like one game over 500 now. So it's and we always talk about going to Denver and going to Utah, how brutal those places are to play. And then you look at the all-time series record every time I'm putting together notes, and as much trouble as Portland has had in Denver, Denver has had just as much trouble, and if not more, in Portland. So this has been one of those places that's always been tough to play.
Yeah. All right, Mike, so we got another listener that is sort of piggybacking off of what you've just been talking about, your favorite memories of the past. I know a million things probably come to mind, but is there any funny stories or anything you can remember? I mean, you've been traveling and working with this team for years now. Anything that comes to mind, just an experience while working with the team that was really sticks out?
There are a few. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
There are some really good memories, and I think one of the best ones, well, there was 2 on this road trip. I don't know if you guys remember the team back in, must have been that team in 06 or 07. I lose track. But the 13-game winning streak in December, which shocked everybody because that was supposed to be a young team that wasn't going anywhere, and they didn't make the playoffs. I think that team finished 41-41.
Yeah.
But they had that 13-game winning streak where they were winning games that was just crazy because they were not favored in anything. And they all of a sudden started on this roll. And the night they won the 13th, we flew to Utah, and I think it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And that flight was really cool. The team was celebrating some, but they lost. I think it was New Year's Eve. They lost in Utah, and then we had to fly to Minnesota after the game. And there's a bunch of young guys. And Sergio Rodriguez, who I loved, Sergio, was kind of the class clown. And on the flight from Utah to Minnesota, we don't have any alcohol on the plane, first of all. But somebody on New Year's Eve had gotten a hold of some, and I think it was when Nate McMillan was away with his family or so he wasn't on the plane. And the team had gotten some champagne, and there was some dancing going on, and you come around the corner, and Sergio's in the middle of this group, and nobody's in their seats. And they had just lost, but it was almost understandable because they had just done something that nobody had expected. That's probably one of my best memories, seeing that young group kind of cut loose after they had done something that nobody expected. But in terms of our stuff and Mike Rice and myself, I mean, there are so many different memories throughout the years that we've had. And we just finished our 13th or 12th together and my 15th. So anyway, there have been a ton of them, and these are fun guys to be around. And even during the times when people said that the team had knuckleheads on it, I always liked all those guys. They were, maybe struggled some. I mean, even people talk about Zach Randolph. Zach was always a guy with a huge heart, a guy who still always comes by, remembers my wife's name, remembers my kids' names, and nobody does that because who am I? Yeah. I'm not big deal, but he cares that much. And so the relationships I've built with not only the fans here and in other markets, but with the players as well around the league, those are probably the best memories. Maybe not funniest, but the best.
No, those are great.
So, Mike, we got our last couple of questions here. We'll start off with this. Are you a better broadcaster because of your endeavors with the Wild One? I'm talking about Mike Rice.
Yeah, of course. Yes, yes, I definitely am, because as funny as Rice comes off, and I know that people kind of take him as this wild guy who says crazy things, and he gets on the air and he's kind of awkward at times, and he forgets names and forgets dates and everything else. He really is really good, and he sees things on the floor happening that not a lot of people do, and he's taught me a lot in those ways. Now, my dad was a coach, and we have about the same age difference, my dad and Mike, so that's probably why Mike and I get along so well. But Rice is tremendous, and he's shown me things and little things at different times of the game when I'll be thinking one thing and he'll say, no, but remember this, during a timeout, and I'll say, yeah. So it changes my perspective. I did my first 3 years with Steve Jones, and Snapper was then he was on the national broadcast with Bob Costas, so he would leave and do NBC games or ABC, and then he'd come back. Steve was great to work with. He was a tough guy to be baptized with because he was tough on me, but I needed it. But Coach Rice was fantastic. He has been all along. He started to fill in for Steve. When Steve would go, they would move Mike to TV, and then Wheels would do the game by himself. And I think they started to see, TV is the analyst's game. Radio is the play-by-play guy's game. On TV, the analyst has so much more time to talk because I don't need it back. I mean, that's the one thing that I think TV guys struggle with. I don't need to tell you stuff that's happening. I want to add to the broadcast. I don't want to be the broadcast. Mm-hmm. And with Mike there, then he can do more of that. And he can start off on a story, and if a guy scores a basket in the first half while he's telling his story, I had to tell him early on, don't stop talking. I don't need it back. I don't have any ego or any cares about when I talk versus when you talk. And so I think that's why it's worked well. I've kind of had a good read on him when he's starting to go into something, and then I know when to reel him back in.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is fun, and he doesn't get as out there as people think. And some people always think he's on the verge of saying something, horribly controversial. He knows what he's doing. He can get on the fence and stay on it and really not go over the edge. And that's one question I usually get about him is, he's going to say something crazy. Well, he doesn't really, but he gets close enough to the line to where he's built this persona. So he's a smart dude. He knows what he's doing, and he's been phenomenal to work with. And here's a guy that I don't think he'd probably mind me saying it. He's late 70s, and I don't want to imagine doing games without him, but eventually that's going to have to happen, but I hope it's not for a while yet.
All right, Mike, we'll get you out on this. Do you have any tips for students who are pursuing a career in broadcasting? And a little two-part question here. What are your predictions for the Beavers with this upcoming season for football?
All right, number one, because that's the easier one. The tips, when I went to Oregon State, I went and I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea. I probably switched majors 4 or 5 times. But I went to what was easiest, what came easiest for me, and that was writing. And I thought I would be a sports writer. And I started interning with the sports information department, so I was kind of around. I knew I wanted to be in sports somewhere. So that really gave me an opportunity to, like you back, I don't know how they do it now, but back in the day, you would be given sports. Like my sports that I was the sports information director for, basically, was golf and volleyball and, sports like that. And you would have to write up, this is back in the day, but you'd have to write up a release after every game. You'd go into the office that night after a game, and the coach would call you on the phone, and then he would describe what happened in the game and usually read you stats. And so then you would plug them all in, put them in a computer, and then you would send them out on the wire to all the news services. And that's how they would get the story. And a lot of times they would use your story. So that's how I got into the writing part of it and the sports part of it. The broadcasting stuff almost just happened by accident. The baseball team wasn't then what it is now, but we had the radio station, we had KBVR there, and we had the little TV studio that we could do some stuff in. And I had some friends who were doing some stuff with that, and they said, hey, nobody's broadcasting baseball games. Let's go broadcast some baseball games. So we actually ran, I forgot about this. We actually ran a wire on a spool from the station to the press box, a big long extension cord, and then plugged in an old setup. And we used to broadcast baseball games, and nobody cared because it didn't really matter. And we sat in this little old wooden press box, and we broadcasted baseball games. So from there, we kind of said, well, why don't we do this with TV? And my producer, who actually is a director now, Jeff Curtin, he was at Oregon State when I was at Oregon State. Yep. And Curtin said, well, let's broadcast some high school football games from then Parker Stadium, and we'll broadcast them on TV in the little area there. And so we did a few. And we didn't do a ton because it took a lot. But they had this little broadcasting van. I don't know what you guys have now, but we backed it up there and hooked up, probably had a 5 or 6 camera show. And it was, there's still tapes of that floating around somewhere. And I think Curtin has some of them.
I'm sure we could find them.
We should dig that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically just a few guys like you guys who felt like doing it. You knew that the resources were there for you. There was the opportunity to do it. And they just kind of had a burning passion and just did it. I was lucky in that I had some guys around me who also pushed me and said, hey, let's do this. And we have ways of doing this. So once we did that stuff, I came up to Portland after I graduated and, after 5 short years and kind of then just started looking around, and I thought I'd be in the golf business because I was a big golfer and thought, okay, maybe I'll do something like that. And then a buddy of mine said, hey, would you want to do some high school basketball games in Hillsboro out of a little radio station? And I said, yeah. So I drove the van to girls and boys basketball games, and I'd set up the Marty unit with a high antenna that would reach the station. And I would do high school basketball games for like $40 a game.
Jeez.
And then at KXL Radio, the job opened up in '92 where they used to use Rick Metzger, who was a sportscaster on Channel 6, to do their sports. And you still see some of that. Like when you listen to a radio station, you have the TV news guy do your weather. Well, they did that with sports then. But they decided, well, let's get a little bigger and let's get our own guy in. So for whatever reason, I hit it off with the program director, and he hired me and wasn't making anything but didn't care because it was all, at that point, I didn't need anything. But I was doing sports reports in the morning news and afternoon news, and I was on the Blazer beat, and I was actually doing Oregon Duck football sidelines then because they were the home of the Ducks. But at that time, Rich Brooks was the coach of the Ducks, and he went to Oregon State, so I always had him as an alibi if somebody gave me a lot of trouble about that.
There you go. That's good, then.
But no, that's kind of a longer answer to your question than probably was intended. But
no, that's great.
I like to say that there was a master plan and a blueprint in place, but there wasn't. And I say that to students because there doesn't have to be. Don't feel like if you're in your second or third year and you're spinning around not knowing what you're doing. I didn't either. And a lot of guys that I know didn't either. So if you haven't nailed down this career path and this blueprint for the future, don't sweat it. It's not that big of a deal. You'll figure it out, and you're going to find your path, and you're going to find what comes easy for you, and gravitate toward that. I mean, if numbers and that kind of stuff come to you, then go be an engineer. If talking comes fairly easily to you and writing and that kind of stuff, then go to that side. That to me was the basic thing. I could never get my bearings in the math world or like history, so I kind of was in that for a little while. I was a history major for a really short time. I liked hotel restaurant management. I thought that was kind of cool. But then for whatever reason, I just kind of was funneled into this broadcasting and this news writing, and perhaps growing up in a gym with a dad as a coach, that I knew I'd be in sports somewhere. But I think it's important for students to reach out, find internships, because I know it's tough to find jobs right off the bat. If you can get in and find an internship early somewhere and beat down the doors, and maybe you're making nothing, maybe you're making really not much, or you got to have 2 jobs to do it, but it's there for you. The opportunity's there. You just got to go find it.
Definitely. I guess our final question now is...
I didn't answer the Beaver football question.
Well, obviously the most important question, right? We got to figure out how the Beavers are going to do after their 2-10 season with Gary Anderson.
I like Gary Anderson, let me put it that way. And I think it'll take a while to get it rolling, but I don't know. This may be another tough one this year, but we'll see. I mean, I think at times last year, early in the season especially, they had some games that they could have won and were competing better than many thought. So honestly, I haven't taken a whole lot of time to look at personnel and whatnot, but I hope they get it rolling again. I think Gary's a great coach, and they will eventually.
Yep.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Right. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining
we
us,
really
Mike.
appreciate it.
Oh, of course. No, it's fun. And for you guys, if another college called, I would have said no. But for the Beavs, absolutely.
That's awesome.
There you go.
We love hearing that, Mike.
All right, guys.
if you're ever back
You guys are doing the right thing. You got your show going, and you're carving a little niche. That's how you do it. You guys are on the right path. So keep it up, and call me back anytime.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Have a
All
great
right,
day.
guys. We'll see you.
See ya. Well, that was really
All
cool.
right, that was great.
That was super cool.
That was awesome. Got some cool Twitter
Got some cool stuff.
Twitter questions.
Yeah, thank
answered
you.
there.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone on Twitter, everyone who sent questions in. That was just, man, that was so much fun.
It was packed. It was
For all you guys that tuned in, I know we may have some new listeners right now because of me and Grant reached out from our Trailblazers Twitter accounts. So if you're a new listener, I mean, you just got a taste of greatness. Just got to say it now.
Yeah, right?
I mean,
No,
you're probably going to want to tune in Fridays from here on out. I mean, you may have only known me from Twitter, but now you hear my voice, so you're welcome for that.
I think we just gained a lot of fans there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
And like Jake was saying, this interview will be trimmed down and we'll tweet it out in case anyone missed it.
Anyone who was only able to catch portions of that, man, we got some gems in there. We got some old Sergio Rodriguez popping champagne on an airplane stories.
That's a good one.
And I mean, for all you guys, for all you college students here listening who may be interested in broadcasting or what we do or anything in general, we had some great advice from Mike.
Yeah, great just career and life advice in general.
That was great. We had some great stories, memories from Mike. He's worked with the team since 03. So I mean, travel with them. Yeah, pretty much year in, year out. He lives with the Blazers. So.
Yeah, I mean it's an 82 game grind. You're traveling. You got to do those East Coast road trips in the middle of February where you're going from Washington to Boston to New York, and it's snowy, and you've been staying in a hotel for a week now, and you're just. You're kind of getting sick of it. You just want to be home.
It's a cool job, but at the same time, it requires a lot of.
I think it's a lot more difficult than people
exactly.
really think it is. I think a lot of people think, well, you just show up, you call games.
They see the glitz and glam. You
put a lot of work. I mean, I'm sure we all know it because we've done this and we've seen guys like Yogi Roth and. Guys will come in and they'll talk to you. It's all about the preparation. You can't go up there and not know anything.
I mean, you can't. Yeah, you have to know backstories on players. I mean. Those plane rides, Mike is doing research.
Oh yeah,
before every game.
And this is why the mics are voted.
They're great
high in every year. I mean, it's awesome. So
and don't get your fingers crossed. But now that we got our feet rolling with Barrett, I mean, who knows? Maybe for the season finale or before we're done as our college radio career, so we could snag a Mike Rice interview.
Yeah,
I said
the
just
duo.
go all out now. We got 4 weeks. Let's try and get Mike Rice. Let's go. I mean, why not, man? We got Mike Barrett. Let's try it.
You can tweet us people that you'd like to
who
have
would you
us.
guys? I mean, realistically, we've been talking.
LeBron James.
Oh yeah, LeBron, Kobe. First off, but for any of you guys to be interested in specific Beavs calling in for an interview, we maybe have a few in-person, in-studio interviews with players coming up. But I mean, hopefully Wayne Tinkle, Gary Anderson would have the time to call in just like Mike did. That would be great.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get Anderson and Tinkle.
Yeah.
Try and get something going there.
So stay tuned. We'll tweet it out.
Yeah, definitely.
But really, that was a over 30-minute interview, and trust me, that was some great content. So if any of you guys,
we could have gone forever.
We could have spent the whole 2 hours talking to Mike.
Like you heard him say, he wouldn't have done it for anyone else, but Oregon State connection.
And it's really awesome to hear that, have that Beaver connection, and you can hear it. Mike
to have someone willing to, he was
and Mike,
talking,
you can hear it.
man.
Mike loves.
That was great.
He loves Oregon State, and he's seriously thank you to him for taking the time out to do that. That's awesome.
Awesome guy.
Yeah.
So for all you guys that weren't able to catch the full interview, if you only caught a few parts, hopefully by the end of the day, we'll be trimming it down to not the whole show, but just that specific interview portion will be going up on YouTube. And I highly recommend you listening to it. I think there's some great stuff in there. Some great stuff.
Agreed.
Yep. Well, I think and end on that note. I mean, what else do we really have to say? Mike covered the bases on everything. We talked playoffs. We talked
We didn't
Blazers.
get a chance to ask him about who he thought would win win the title, but I think we kind of got the answer. He said the Warriors.
Jeff stumped him a little on the Kent Bazemore question.
I know, I completely get that though. You know,
I fully understand.
In today's day and age, it's just
I know
things would have gotten blown out if he would have said, "Hell, he would have been a great addition."
But here's the thing: I'm just trying to blow it up for us, because if it comes out that he says, "Oh, hey, Blazers want Kent Bazemore on our show," man, maybe we go national. Just saying.
Hopefully, Mike's still not listening, but. Just kidding, Mike. But for real, that was an awesome interview, awesome show today. A little short show, but very well worth it considering.
Yeah, I think
the content
short
that
but
was
sweet.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, really good content today.
The story of second string, man. Yep.
There you go.
So that interview will be going up later today. You can catch up on it on our YouTube if you're not subscribed. Second String Sports. You can just search that on YouTube. It'll be going up on our Facebook. I'm sure all of us will be tweeting it at Mike to thank him for it. Maybe he'll throw us an RT, get a, maybe
a little follow.
Get the Barrett Rice fans listening. Hopefully, Rice hears it. He doesn't get too angry with Barrett divulging his age for all those that don't know. But
I think we're okay.
Yeah, we'll be okay. But thanks for listening today, guys. I know we didn't really talk about it much, but Civil War baseball game tonight at 7:35, I believe. 7:30.
I want to say 7:30.
7:30. So
got to get it rolling.
Today's
a good day to do it.
It's a beautiful day. So
we got to get a win this. We got to win this series. This is a big one.
Yep. Big series. Just have a great weekend.
Appreciate
Stay tuned for that Mike Barrett interview going up later.
Happy birthday, Randy Leonard.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And by the way, for anyone, I did turn the camera. Jeff is holding, or not holding. Jeff is repping 2 Lakers. Or Lakers and Dodgers. So I'm
keeping the streak alive, man.
The LA Insider has officially kept the streak alive.
I had to ask about Kobe too.
No, that was a really good question too. He loved. I think he
appreciated that.
Yeah, he appreciated that. But,
I think we all had good questions. Job well done all around.
And seriously, for anyone who's still tuning in, seriously, thank you for the Twitter questions. That was some of the most feedback we've ever gotten. So
yeah, definitely.
That was great. All right, have a great weekend. Go Beavs.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Go Beavs.
Happy Friday, and enjoy the day.
Next week, 10 a.m.
Go Beavs.
Go Beavs.
Express yourself. Challenge and inspire others.
Grow.
Learn.
Lead.
Speak your mind.
Share your soul.
Because it's your time.